Hey everybody, welcome to Bones Collector, and we're going to continue with our video series on Shocktober games, and the one I'm going to talk about today is called Ancient and Terrible Things. I think it came out in 2015, and the designer is Simon McGregor and Rob Van Zyl, published by Pleasant Company. So it is a scary game, but I got this off Amazon probably, well, I guess it's been a couple of years ago now, and I was very impressed with it. But the game itself consists simply of a bunch of cards and dice, tokens, and this board. Let's talk about the production of this game. The board itself is nice and thick, lays flat. I really like that. Game box is very thick. I like that. All these tokens that you see are encased in these plastic cases, and we got those off of a game board site or Amazon or something, but they're just cardboard tokens, and they're thick. I mean, you wouldn't need to do this. We do it just to pimp the game out a little bit and have a little more fun with it. And then the player boards are nice thick cardboard, so those are pretty nice. And the dice are very nice. I mean, they're good sculpted D6s. They don't have corners on them, so they roll very good. And you got 5 basic dice, 2 red panic dice, 2 yellow luck dice, and 2 blue feet dice, they are called. So there are cards that give you these extra dice during the game. But to start out, you just use the basic dice, and that's those green ones right there. Now to start the game out, you have encounter cards, and these are going to be the cards that you're going to battle during the game. This is in a very dark theme, and the cards are that kind of art that I really enjoy because it's not gross or anything, but it gives you the feeling of playing a game that's scary. So I really like that. Or that cartoon horror that doesn't, I don't know, kids can play it and not have any problem with it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's very important to us. We enjoy games like that. I don't really care for games that have adult horror in them because I don't know, it just is no fun in board gaming if you ask me. But anyways, you have a deck of encounter cards, and you get a whole bunch of them that you can you shuffle them at the beginning of the game, and you're going to pick them out randomly, and the game will be different every time you play because of that. So there are different levels, as you can see. When you're playing 2-player, you use 6 encounter cards of each color, 6 being 6 of the green are the easier ones, 6 of the gold are kind of a medium difficulty level, and the 6 red are more difficult. So those will sit here on the board, and to start the game, you just seed the board with these encounter cards, and the squares on the board are numbered. There's 1, and you just do them in order: 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's the way you start the game out. And then on the cards, it tells you what tokens to put in those spaces. So you would look at space number 1. This has a purple courage token icon on it, so you'd put 1 on that space. This one over here has a treasure token icon on it, so you would put a treasure token there, and so on. So space 3 has another treasure token. This has a feat token. This has a feat token, and that one has a reroll token. And that's the way this game begins. The next player would take these dice, and you have to roll them and try to, if you pick a space to go to, as a player, we each have a player board. You pick at the beginning of the game what character you want to play. One of those characters will start out with the map, which if you end up with at the end of the game is worth 1 point, and it's a tight game, so 1 point could make all the difference in the world. So it's not worth focusing on, but it's worth paying attention to, I guess is the best way to put it. But you start out as these characters, and you begin the game. Both of you are down here on the riverboat, and if this player here is the first player, the journalist, and you pick a spot on the board that you want to go to, you have to pick one of these encounters. When you pick one of these encounters, you simply place your token there, your character token, and you would take this benefit that's there and place it on your player board. So this person would take that treasure token, put it on their board, and then also on each encounter square there's another added benefit or action, and in this case you get to switch out one of your feat cards that's in your hand. Each player starts out with 3 feat cards, and if you don't like the ones you have, when you come here you can discard one and draw another one. So that helps you out if you have a feat card that you don't really like. And these are very helpful to you during the game because you can pay feat tokens, and it has the amount on each one. This one would cost 7 feat tokens to play, so that's a pretty that's a lot of tokens in this game. To acquire 7 feat tokens, which are the blue ones, very difficult to do. But it's a really, really nice card that lets you set any 2 of the dice to any value you want on your roll. So that's a pretty powerful, and I used that card actually, and it helped me do very well in that game. But those cards, those feat cards, are the whole deck of them that come with the game. You shuffle them up so they come out in a random order, different every time you play, and again they really, really are helpful in the things you're trying to do when you're rolling your dice, trying to get 3 of a kind or runs, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, those kinds of things. The other deck of cards are called swag cards, and this is simply a market. So the swag cards sit here, you shuffle those up, you put them out, 3 of them out randomly, and they have costs of treasure tokens on them. This one, for instance, costs 4 treasure tokens, and this one does, when performing a desperate act, you may overcome encounters with focus tokens instead of courage tokens. So very cool card. But again, those are the swag cards, and they are also very helpful, and things that when you at end your turn down on the trading post, you get to go to the market, and if you have money you can buy those cards. That's kind of fun too. But anyways, this person went to this square. You take a look at the encounter card of the location that you've chosen, and in this case the card says 3 of a kind, 3 or higher, if you can see that card. So that has a picture of 3 dice with 3 pips each on it. You have to roll 3 of a kind that are 3 or higher to defeat that encounter and gain the 4 points at the end of the game. And you only have 1 roll to do it. So you're going to roll these 5 basic dice. And look, we have an Ancient Terrible Things cup. This is actually an old Yahtzee cup. It's probably, I don't know, really old. Probably 30 years old, but we put the sticker that came with the game on the cup, and it sits out in our house all the time. But I really, really like using this Yahtzee cup. Other than that, I mean, it just adds to the fun of the game. But that person would roll these dice and try to get 3 of a kind. And in this case, 2 6s and 2 3s. Now you have a tough decision to make. Are you going to pay? You have reroll tokens that you can use. It costs you 1 of these for every die you reroll. So that's really hard to do. I mean, you really have to think, do I want to spend these focus tokens early in the game to reroll some of these dice? And in this case, if you wanted to defeat this encounter, you would either have to pay that 1 focus token to reroll 1 of these dice, or just bite the bullet, say I can't beat that encounter, take 1 of these Terrible Things tokens, and it's going to go on your player board. And they're an ascending value. There are more, I don't know how many of these there are, maybe, I don't know, 20 of them or something. You're going to pick 8 randomly at the beginning of the game. We pick them out of a bag, and then you put them in ascending order. So these would be 0 points against you at the end. This would be 1 point against you at the end. And there's also 2s, which none on this board, but there's 3s also. So if you can't defeat encounters, you're going to have to take 1 of these tokens, these Terrible Things tokens, and put them on your player board, and they will go against you at the end of the game. So this person would have to say, oh, I can't beat this. We're going to put it over here in the rumor stack. I'm going to take that token. It doesn't count anything against that player. It's a 0, but it goes on their player board. And this is also an in-game trigger. So if all of those disappear, it triggers the end of the game. The other way the end of the game comes is if all the encounters have been taken off the board. But yeah, so that's really the way the game is played. And you have to use all of these cards that you can acquire. This player would eventually go back down to the trading post after this encounter. She can use this card that each player gets at the beginning of the game. It's a scenario card, and the dice that you have left over you can trade in for tokens. So in this case, if she didn't use these dice to satisfy that encounter, she can take this card and match up the dice to the card and get some of these tokens. So in this case, 2 3s on this card would get 2 treasure tokens. So she would get 2 treasure tokens for the 2 3s, put them on her board. And for these 2 6s, very nice, you can get 2 courage tokens, the purple ones, according to this card. And a 5 left over, you get another purple courage token. And those things are very important because you can use courage tokens to buy your way out of these encounters. And let's talk about that for a second. So that is the secrets, the ancient secrets, that's what it stands for, and those are just the points. But this is worth 4 ancient secrets, and when she was battling that, if she had had 4 courage tokens, if she didn't get the dice that she wanted to defeat this, that player could take 4 of the courage tokens and spend them to defeat this without getting the rolls that are required on the bottom of the card. That's one way you can defeat these cards, but those tokens are hard to come by. And once you start spending them, getting them back into your stash is very difficult. But yeah, that's the way this game is played. When you're down in the trading post, you can take a look at these cards. If you have the treasure tokens, which this player has 1, 2, 3, 4 treasure tokens, they can buy from this market of cards, and there's some crazy cards in here that can help you in any manner of ways during this game. And they're not overpowering cards. In other words, even the feat cards or the swag cards, they're just little helpful things that that you can use during your roll, during your turn, to try to beat some of these encounters. Let me read some of them to you. These are the swag cards that you can purchase in the market. Exhaust this card to re-roll any 1 die during a villain encounter. So if you were doing a villain encounter, which is the blue icon on these cards, you could re-roll any 1 dice if you just exhausted the card. Just tap it to the side. You can do it 1 time on your turn. Just little helpful things like that is what these cards are all about. And it costs 2 treasure tokens to acquire that card in the market. But there's some, I think some of the cards give you extra dice. These luck dice, one of the cards will say you can use a luck dice on your turn, or you can add it to the basic die, take out the basic die, so you got 1 luck die. And the nice thing about luck dice, these yellow ones, you can re-roll them for free. You don't have to spend a focus token to re-roll this dice. So that's pretty cool. And then the other dice, this blue one, is called a feat die, and you can, when you roll it, you can spend a feat token, which are the blue ones, to up this feat die total by 1. So if you rolled a 3, you could spend a token and turn it up to a 4, should you need to do that. Again, it's just small little helpful things like that, little increments in this game that make it so tight. You just have to weave your magic strategy through these cards to do the best you can to defeat as many encounters as you can possibly do by the end of the game, because then you add them up and those are the points that you're going to have, because the person with the most points at the end of this game wins. Okay, so those are the swag cards, and that is, I just walked you through a turn. That's a basic turn right there, is how this game is played. And also, these cards over here are called achievement cards. You acquire them by having a certain number of tokens, specific tokens, in your stash. In other words, if you have 3 of the courage tokens on this card, which this player has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they would take that card and put it next to their player board. At the end of the game, they get 4 points or 4 ancient secrets, which is the same thing. And they would keep that card. Now that card doesn't stay with them. If your opponent has more of these purple courage tokens than you, plus 1, then he could steal that card from you, and he would get those points at the end of the game. So you don't guarantee yourself this card. I mean, you can pick it up when you satisfy the requirement. In this case, this person has at least 3 treasure tokens that can go next to their player board for now, unless this player acquires 4 treasure tokens. So that would be the 3 that they have plus 1, and then they would take that from that player. So whoever ends up with those cards at the end of the game gets those bonus points. And that's pretty cool. So there's a lot happening in this game. It's a lot of fun. It's a dice chucking, you know, spooky style game. And we play it every time October rolls around, and we really enjoy it. It's a good time. Your player boards walk you through your turn. It has every step to take during your turn. Has your character. You start out the game with a token. Each character starts out with 1 token of a certain color, and then you get 1 token of each. So you end up starting the game with 5 tokens. This player has 1 of each, and then the blue token that goes with that particular character. Then on your board you have a reroll token that keeps track of how many. You can only reroll 2 times on your turn, and so that's everything that's on your player board. But that's the whole game, and it's a lot of fun. The game is very difficult, again, to weave these cards together, because the help that they give you is very small. So you have to really go over them in your head and try to weave them together to help yourself in your dice rolls, to manipulate these dice, to beat these encounters, to put them in your hand so you can add them up at the end of the game and be the winner. Because that's what it's all about in Ancient Terrible Things. It's a terrific game, you guys. Put it in your collection. It's been in mine for, like, say, for a couple years now, and I really enjoy playing it. I don't just play in October, but I make sure that I play it in October, because it is, again, that type of theme that I really enjoy playing, where it's not over the top, vulgar or gross, and but it still has that air of October and Halloween in it, and I really like that. So hope you guys enjoy this video. Watch for a couple more coming out. I'm going to be playing Big Book of Madness and doing a video about that, so that should be coming out real soon. That's another terrific game, spoiler alert. And yeah, that's Ancient Terrible Things. If you haven't played it, see if you can get out and play it. And but I'm sure any of you could buy this with confidence, that it's a really fun, interesting game to play, and especially during this time of year. So hey, have a great day. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, please. Keep on playing board games, because it's the best hobby of the planet. I love every one of you. See you the next time on The Bones Collector. Bye-bye.